The clock at Old Trafford remains permanently frozen at 3:04 p.m. on February 6th, 1958. This was the time and date that a plane carrying our beloved Manchester United team crashed on takeoff from Munich airport. A broken plane, a broken dream, a broken heart, a broken team. No word said, a silent vow. We loved you then, we loved you now.
Jay here, Stretford Paddock. It's always important to remember what happened at Munich in 1958, the tragic crash that cost the lives of so many talented young footballers, the flowers of Manchester, not to mention as well the staff and the journalists that died as well. And I've been out there to Munich, I've been to the site of the crash, and it feels very eerie. It's not where the airport is anymore, it's moved, and it's sort of in the middle of nowhere almost. I think there's a village nearby, and that's about it. And it does feel, as you'd expect, very, very sad and tragic, and you can almost sense the atmosphere there that something terrible happened. And it's part of Manchester United's fabric, and the fact that United were able to continue and to thrive, 10 years after Munich, after losing such a talented group of players, we won the European Cup. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal, and that's a big testament to the spirit and the heart of this club, and to what Sir Matt Busby was able to do, and himself to survive Munich, to see the players that he'd nurtured lose their lives, and to keep going and to make Manchester United the club it is today. So it's always important we acknowledge it. It's always important as well that younger fans read up about Munich and find out why it is so important to this football club, and why, as the song goes, we may have lost those tragic players, but we'll keep the red flag flying high, because Man United will never die.
February 6th, 1958, on a runway in Munich in Europe, a dream died. The flowers of Manchester United, Sir Matt Busby team was on the way back from a European tie against Red Star Belgrade after the 3-3 draw. Confidence was high. The team was full of happiness. And as we approached the final takeoff, disaster came. And therefore, as today, we remember the Munich air disaster and all that died, the people who died, and all the survivors, and everything that came and went before us. And this is why we are Manchester United. So let's just keep this as it is. Respect Matt Busby, the United way.
Our thanks to Jay Motti and Andy Tate for those wonderful messages. Of course, today we are here to remember the great loss of Manchester United, the Busby Babes. On Monday, obviously, this was something that forever changed the directory of Manchester United Football Club. It's a loss like no other felt in European football, a loss to families, a loss to parents, a loss to friends. How much has this affected our football club, and how much did it bring the city of Manchester together?
Massively. I just want to say big up to Jay and Andy there. Really heartfelt messages, and Jay really put a nail on the head there when he said about what it sort of meant for the club and how much damage it done. We produced a brilliant team. That was such a great team. I don't think we realised today how great these players were. You're talking about players like Duncan Edwards, a halfback, which would be a defensive midfielder today, who was outstanding. Even Bobby Charlton, who's won the World Cup in '66, says to this day that he was one of the best players he's ever played with, and one of the best players in the world football. Would have gone on to be one of the greatest. Strong, hard, just a rock of a player. We were on the course as Man United Football Club. We won the 2 leagues prior to that. We got to a semi-final. Remember, Real Madrid won every Champions League for years. They were running things, but we were on the cusp of beating them. and we were building as a young team. They were afraid. They knew what was coming. So what a tremendous way for English football to sort of grow, bringing young players through, and about to blow up and become the best team in Europe. They were already proven they were the best team in the land, and they would have won the Champions League or the European Cup 10 years prior to when they did. It's so unfortunate, isn't it? A disaster like that. There's been a few playing disasters and things where football teams have had major crises like that, but this one affects us here in the UK, and this one is massive because of what it means to Manchester United Football Club. It means everything. It just shows you the spirit of the club. That's what we build on. I wasn't born back then, but I spoke to my grandfather and my parents as well. They talk about it, the impact it had, and this is why I think, as a family, we all support Manchester United Football Club. That's got something to do with it as well. All these great players lost, but it's not. We don't lie down. You have to celebrate death and celebrate the lives of people and what they achieved in the short time they were here on earth. And the celebration was coming back. You know, when you're on your face, no matter what you're going through in life, you come back, you rise up again, and you fight. And in the space of 5-6 years, they won the FA Cup. And like Jay said, they coming back and won the Champions League again, and we won the league. So even like later on, this happened in February. In May, we played the semi-final and we won the first leg with half a team. Do you understand what I'm saying? Obviously, we lost the second leg, but imagine that. You know, the most people and most sides would crumble, but there must be something, a foundation within Manchester United Football Club to get us through that. And the whole world football is supports Manchester United based on what happened that day and how we've recovered and shown how great we are. And just imagine how great we could have been with these players. Rest in peace, every one of you. You are magnificent.
Absolutely. CALLULA, in that intro, we saw some of the harrowing headlines that greeted the public back then when this occurred. And obviously, this was news that would have been mainly travelled by newspaper at the time and would have brought great shock and sadness to the families as their loved ones, journalists, players, coaches alike, all were affected by this tragic accident. I know this date has a significance for you and your family. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, and one of the things I would say is that one of the reasons why being a United fan, it's a family thing. Don't get me wrong, I get upset every time, and it's very conflicting because my father was 1 year old at the time. My nan remembers it to the day. So my father was born in 1957. My nan remembers holding my father in 1958, and it's kind of like, no matter how upsetting it was, it really did give me something like a phoenix fire, because we didn't, no matter how much dust, we rose back. It took 10 years for Matt Bugsby, but you know, he did it. And forever, we've got the history here. We've got the love. We've got the history. We've got the fight. We're not one of these teams that are just nothing. That we're one of the teams that have got it all, and we did it. And it's a nice story to kind of say, and that's why I'll move Jay Marty, that younger people that are our fans need to read about our history, because we have history. And it goes from the normal working man that just wanted to do what he needed to do to the magnificent thing that we've turned into. Man United will always be on fire. And as I said, it's always a phoenix, no matter what happens, no matter how much we crumble, no matter how much we go through, the phoenix fire will always come back. And that's why we're red. And, you know, it's a passionate thing for me. My condolences to so many people that were lost, and I'll agree with Jay Marty again, because it wasn't just our players, journalists, the people that were there as well. It's a sad day, and even every year, my dad's birthday, so like Monday, my dad's birthday on the 6th of February, we'll do our silence. But it's, thank God we're still here. Not every team and not every manager could do what we did, and that takes something and passion. And anyone that's a Man United fan, check the history, because we've got to be proud, no matter where we are, to be a United fan, because we went through the ringer.
Absolutely, CALLULA. And I do want to remember the tragic departed on that accident. The 8 players: Geoff Bent, Roger Byrne, Eddie Coleman, Duncan Edwards, Mark Jones, David Pegg, Tommy Taylor, and Liam Whelan. 8 journalists also perished in this accident. Alf Clark, Donny Davis, George Follows, Tom Jackson, Archie Ledbrook, Henry Rose, Eric Thompson, and former Manchester City goalkeeper Frank Swift, aircraft captain Ken Raymond, fellow crew member Tom Cable, travel agent Bella Mikos, and supporter Willie Satinoff, a friend of Manchester United manager Sir Matt Busby, were also victims of this terrible tragedy. But on Monday, you mentioned earlier that Manchester United, as a football club, they rose like a phoenix to grow and to remember and honour the players that they lost, because they did not want to give up and they wanted to come back and show that everything was not in vain. But I think it would be unfair of us not to mention the support that the other football clubs gave to Manchester United. I read an article today reminding me of the fact that Real Madrid, even though they were the number one club in the world at the time, they wanted to give us the world's best player for 12 months to get us back on track. The player himself was willing to go and play for Manchester United. However, due to circumstances otherwise to do with work visas, that did not happen. There was also a very touching moment following that Champions League final that Real Madrid wanted to give the European Cup to Manchester United. Obviously, our club declined this wonderful sense of camaraderie, but on Monday, it does show in the face of adversity that the football world can unite no matter what we as various fan bases say to each other on match day.
Yes, very special. I mean, big up to Real Madrid. They also organised friendlies to raise money and donate to the families and to Man United Football Club as well. And they knew that we were on the cusp of something great at the time with the football side. Like you said, two winning league titles, and then we went really far in Europe to both occasions. Just losing out. So we were the next big thing coming up. So they recognised that. They understood that as well. And for the national team as well, you think about some of the players that could have come up in '58 with the World Cup. England could have lost Duncan Edwards, and going forward, England had to rebuild. But Man United most certainly had to rebuild. It's a young side. It's not like old players. It's a young side. So suddenly you had to bring players in. You had to reorganise. You had to sort of have, that sort of motivation. You'd be devastated as a manager, wouldn't you? But then suddenly you have to be motivated and say, right, we can rebuild. And that was the spirit that got us through. And all the support from all the other clubs, even domestically as well. Fantastic, But what surprised me, is coming back. It's the comeback story of the century. To come back and get to the FA Cup final for 5 years later or so. And then eventually, you had Ballon d'Or winners in Bobby Charlton, George Best, and Dennis Law. Dennis Law was the first player to win a Ballon d'Or. He was a fantastic striker for us. But then we can't forget Tommy Taylor and players like that who go and look at their goal record is outstanding. So look, there were some big players, and when we look at Man United history, young players today, they think it just starts in the Premier League. This is what made us the club we are today, and obviously, we had to recover from that and come back and prove something. And that is the biggest achievement for me, to come back after all them years and prove it within a decade to win that trophy, which we could have won 3, 4, 5 times within that period. We beat Benfica in the quarterfinals, leading up to that. We won the title before that. But Benfica ended up being in finals and rivaling Real Madrid back then. So just imagine how many Champions Leagues or European Cups we could have had at this point with this great side. Like I say, they were on the cusp of greatness and it was taken away from us. But we returned, and the bounce back ability, a word they use a lot today, that's where it should originate. If you look at bounce back ability, that should be the story of the 58 team, because that's certainly what they did under the manager, under the support of all those families and the fans of Manchester United Football Club. We came back, and that's been within our spirit ever since. So I'm proud to be a Man United supporter, and I think it's a wonderful story that we should tell orally over and over again, because you only die when you're forgotten, and this team will never be forgotten.
Absolutely, on Monday. And of course, CALLULA, we recently marked the occasion of the anniversary of Sir Matt Busby's death. He died on the 20th of January 1994, aged 84. And Old Trafford itself does stand as a monument to the memory of this team. And obviously, as the club changes and evolves, we do hope that these memories are kept sacred and brought forward to Man United fans for generations to come. Just how much of mental strength did Matt Busby show in order to come back and lead his team?
He defied science because it's mortifying. There's no other words for what you've gone through. Not only was he involved in the disaster, guys, look, for me, like, you know, I'm only like 34, but seeing young people with so much talent just go away so quickly in something that should never have happened, that for me in itself is just mortifying. But he knew, and this is why you've got to love, no matter what. If you're Man United, I would say I kiss this. There you go, right side, there we go. I kiss this because that is who we are, because it's not been easy. Bugsby gave us something that I don't even know if anyone else could give us, to get the strength to go on. And it wasn't like he gave us a few years. He kept on going because he loved our team. And that's why no matter how bad it gets, how good it gets, you're a Red Devil till you die. You're a Man United fan till you die, because we went through such... There's no words for it. But what I love is the positivity, because we fought hard. We didn't give up. And that's what it's really all about. Because if anyone was going to give us a bad dice roll, that was the worst dice roll we could get. And still, you know, I'd say shout out to the teams. So Real Madrid really did try and help. Even Blackpool tried to give us players. Like, you got different teams. They saw and thought, wow, how is this team still even alive? So I really do want younger players and younger people to look and see Man United isn't just fashion. Man United is a family, it's a team, and it's our heart. And there's a reason why we all love it so much, because we fought through the atrocities. As I said, my dad's birthday's on Monday, and we always do our minute silence, because this is a day not to be. You've got to... It's a weird one for me, because it's not about just being upset because it was an upsetting day, but it's about the rebirth, the phoenix, and the fight of Man United. It's a triumphant day as well, because we never gave up. It's the memory and the fight all in one.
Yes, indeed, CALLULA. And I suppose, to use those words, we are celebrating the memory of those that we lost. On Monday, any final memories you want to share with our viewers with regards to this tragic incident? I know with Liverpool, we do share the common bond of tragedy. They are not without their own loss. And when their time comes, we will remember those that were lost in Hillsborough as well. And they do unite behind us on this tragic Memorial Day. Your final thoughts?
Yeah, just go and remember the team. Anyone who doesn't know, go and look up the team. Go and look at the names of the players from 58, what they achieved and what they were on the verge of doing. And just study these players. Look at their goal records, look at their performances, get quotes from players that played against them and with them. And you get an understanding of just how good this Man United team were. And so young as well. So I'd leave it at that. Go and do your homework, guys, if you don't know. And go and show some respect for a great story and a great comeback. A phoenix from the flames, as CALLULA says. Yeah.
United's flag is deepest red. It shouldered all our Munich dead. Before their limbs grew stiff and cold, their hearts brought dried in every fold. Then rise United's banner high, beneath its shade we'll live and die. So keep the faith and never fear, we'll keep the red flag flying here. We'll never die, we'll never die, we'll never die, we'll never die. We'll keep the red flag flying high, 'cause Man United will never die.